All right. So I am so excited to introduce our next speaker. She brings a completely fresh take on leadership, one that connects pop culture and professional growth in ways that are both smart and surprisingly relatable. If you've ever wondered what Taylor Swift can teach us about influence and decision making, this one's for you. A little bit about Dr. Mariah Yates here. She is an associate professor of management at WKU, where she teaches and researches organizational behavior, leadership, and business ethics. She's the co-author of the new book, Swift Leadership, a tailor-made approach to influence and decision-making, exploring lessons in authenticity, influence, and creative leadership through the lens of Taylor Swift's career. Dr. Yates has earned national recognition for her innovative teaching and scholarship, and she's known for creating learning experiences that blend insight, humor, and real-world application. We're so lucky to have her and are especially appreciative of her willingness to step in when one of our presenters had to cancel last minute. And I, for one, as a Swiftie, am very excited to hear what she has to say. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Mariah Yates.
Thank you so much, Riley. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Where is the clicker? Or do I just use on the... Oh, the big green button. Okay, there we go. Makes sense. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for having me. I was so glad to get this invite. And this is different than the aspects I usually get to speak to when it comes to Taylor Swift and the research and things that I do, because I am in the management department. So, don't hate me for that. Management and marketing go hand in hand, right? But I was really excited about this because some of the really cool parts that Taylor Swift does is really in her marketing. Even if you are not a Swiftie, I think most folks can recognize her level of marketing genius and the way that she's been able to do things and just become a global phenomenon. So I want to talk about that a little bit today, and then about the lessons that you can incorporate in how you're thinking about being more creative and pulling some inspiration from Taylor Swift in your own marketing practices. Okay, so why Taylor Swift? Okay, so I wanted to bring up some of her accomplishments if you are not as familiar with them. So she is the only one to receive the Album of the Year Grammy 4 times. I believe she broke the Beatles record on that one. She, the Eras Tour, which ran from 23 to 24, was the highest grossing tour, over $1 billion. And that's not even counting the economic benefits that the tour stops, that the cities were able to experience because of the tour stops there. She is the first artist to hold all top 10 places on the Hot 100 list. She did that the first time, was the first artist to do that. She did it in 2022 with her Midnights album, and she is currently holding it now with her album Life of a Showgirl that released on October 3rd, and she is still holding very strong to that. And not just the Hot 100, it is on Apple Music, Spotify, all of those services there. So she's holding strong there. And she's the first artist to reach $1 billion or over $1 billion net worth, primarily from her music. There are other billionaire artists out there, but a lot of times they have clothing lines or perfume or makeup or all types of different marketing streams, right? Or income streams. Hers has primarily been off of her artistry. Okay. So, and I just wanted to show this to really show the impact of how she has just continued to grow as an artist here. So most artists experience their greatest growth within those first 5 albums. You can see, so she started off and this is first week album sales, and we're talking about physical copies of albums. So her first week with her very debut album was at 40,000. Life of a Showgirl was 4 million, so she increased that by 100 times. For those of you all who are not familiar with her work and maybe sitting here counting, you're like, that looks like more than 12. She re-recorded several of her albums when she had lost the rights to the masters. So a few of her albums are re-records. So she went back, re-recorded them, and they are out as Taylor's versions. But post Eras Tour and the revenue she was able to drive from that. She was able to purchase back the rights to all of her music. So you can listen to all of them guilt-free if you are an avid Swiftie there. So you can see her, like I said, just her continued growth. And another thing to put in context, most artists are lucky to get 300,000 physical copies sold in this era of streaming. And again, she sold 4 million within the first week. So I think that gives some better context. Okay. So in terms of mastermind and leadership and marketing, kind of where does that come from? What am I talking about when I say that? Well, first of all, Mastermind is a title track on her Midnights album, so that's where the name was being pulled in from. But when we're talking about a mastermind, we're talking about a person who supplies the directing or creative intelligence for a project, because Swift has been the creative mastermind behind all of her works. So she just had the album release on October 3rd. And then just this week, she announced that on Disney, there will be a 6-part docuseries looking at the behind the scenes of the Eras Tour. So I was fortunate enough to get to go to the Eras Tour, and my husband was, generous enough, I guess you would say. He was a good sport and went with me. And one of the things we talked about that night, he was like, I just want to know, what happens afterwards, right? Is she going to bed? Are we doing physical therapy? This is a lot, okay? Because it's, over 3 hours straight of performance with no intermission and, changing sets and all these different things. So just really understanding and appreciating all that goes into the work that she does. And so I'm going to present or discuss what I'm going to call the mastermind equation, which is story plus sparkle. So you may have noticed a little bit of sparkle today, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So when we're talking about story as a strategy, the Eras Tour is an excellent example of this, because each era tells a different story. It has its own tone, it has its own vibe, it has its own themes, has its own branding and color schemes. And so when you went to the Eras Tour, there may be different eras that you resonated with more, or you would see people dressed in their favorite era, which was really interesting. And so we could also witness her artistic and personal character development across time using those eras and being able to witness that growth. And as I alluded to just a second ago, it really inspired fan creativity. And so from a management perspective and talking about leadership, transformational leadership, intellectual stimulation is something that a transformational leader does. Meaning it's not just about, getting people to do what you want them to do, but you are inspiring them to be the best at what it is that they do. So it was really fun during that time to, get online and watch people creating their costumes and becoming so creative and having all of this different fan art. Whatever era resonated with them most, or perhaps maybe it was an era that doesn't embody their everyday and gave them an opportunity to dress up and do something different. And so that really just, being able to, it's not just her and herself, but the ripple effects that she's been able to create. And so that's where I think people, no matter what industry you're in, whether it's management or marketing or a variety of other capacities, I feel like that's where she can be a real inspiration, is not just whether or not you like her music, but appreciating her for what she does and how she can inspire others to do similar type of things in their own capacities. And so she empowers a lot through symbolism, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. But again, the costumes, the friendship bracelets, and she didn't sell friendship bracelets. She didn't encourage fans to do friendship bracelets. That was a line in a song. And fans took that and ran with it and created their own tradition of exchanging friendship bracelets at the Eras Tour and now other subsequent Taylor Swift related events. So much so that the last 3 tour stops, one of which I got to attend, started in New Orleans. At the stadium, they created this big friendship bracelet that went across the stadium. And in true friendship bracelet style, they shared it with the last 2 tour stops. And that that followed along with the tour. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where to stand that projector light isn't like directly in my eye, but I'm not looming behind this thing the whole time as well. So sorry if I'm like kind of popping in and out here. Okay, so in practice, encouraging you to think about your brand or your branding in terms of eras, right? Being able to show your audience how you are evolving through time, not just thinking about campaigns as like this campaign that we're going to sell and make this, we're going to hit this sales goal or whatever the case may be, but really bringing it to life, showing your audience, showing your consumers, showing your customers what this is about and how they can connect with it by telling a story, and showing how you are evolving over time, and showing that purpose behind your brand or that purpose behind what it is that you're trying to do there, your current set of efforts. All right, the next one I want to talk about, which is something else that's really unique to Taylor Swift, is the layered symbolism and Easter egging. So I tried to take a little bit of inspiration from that today, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But what Taylor does is she intentionally embeds a lot of hidden messages for her fans to look into, to decode, to try to give hints towards projects and things that she has coming up. So here in just a minute, or I guess I'll go ahead and hand it over. If you will, we can play just that 1 minute clip there that Taylor describes a little bit about Easter egging. There's a play button up here. Can I hit play here? Oh, well. Okay. I know y'all been doing the game show music, so that's the best I got. Oh, redwood tree. That goes well, too. Serendipity, symbolism, all those good things. That's what we call Tay voodoo right there. So the fact that happened. So I love that. Love that, love that. But I guess I'll walk through my little symbolism that I was thinking about today as coming together here. So I knew that you all had the Halloween theme. So I've got my orange and black going with the Halloween theme. Got my nails done this morning, which are purple for Halloween as well. And then if you've noticed on the slides, it's orange glitter because that's along with the Showgirl, the current set of albums that we're on. So I've got my orange here. I've talked about sparkle as part of the theme. So I've got my sparkly jacket, my sparkly jewelry, all those types of things. So again, tried to take kind of from her inspiration there and really being intentional about different things and little details there. Do we think we got it? Okay, boo. Okay, well, if it won't play here, then you'll just have to go find it yourself, or you can go watch the 2-hour podcast, which is really entertaining, or you can just find the fun clips. But she just talks about how you can be a casual fan and have nothing to do with any of the Easter egging or any of those types of things. I myself, is it working? Maybe. Okay.
The Easter eggs thing is getting a little Zodiac killer at this point. The art of the Easter egg is that there's do's and don'ts, right? Like, I'm never going to plant an Easter egg that ties back to my personal life. It's always going to be towards music. Something I'm coming up with, something I have coming up, a plan I have coming together. I want Easter eggs to be a certain thing where, like, if you are a part of the fandom and you want to experience music in a normal way, then you don't even see these. You don't even care what that thing is above that doorway over there that's upside down, backwards, in Braille. You don't need to know what that is.
But if you do,
then it's there. Every night of the Eras tour, I would leave the stage every night going down the elevator lift, except for the last one, where I exited through a door, an orange door to be specific. That actually was an Easter egg. The reason why I chose to exit that way is because I kind of wanted to give a little subliminal hint to the fans that I may be leaving the Eras Tour era, but I was also entering
a new era.
A new
orange
era.
Okay, perfect. gave that description there. So what her Easter egging does and what this kind of intentional, embedding subliminal messages or being intentional with colors and different things like that, it gives something for fans to interact with. It is very unique. That's what in another interview she talks about. She's like, if you want to have, music in a normal way, that's totally fine. But like, if you want to have something fun and interesting, come on over here and join us. And so there is people that have entire content dedicated to just trying to solve these things. And there's Reddit threads and there's social media feeds and there's all these different groups with people being able to come together to have this shared experience while also, again, trying to expand their own minds and creativity and trying to decode some things. So it gives that interactive experience. So thinking about, is there something that you could do in your own marketing practices to allow your consumers, your customers, your clients to be more engaged, to find, to have something there as kind of, not necessarily an Easter egg hunt, because I understand that's a kind of a unique experience, but calling on your consumers for some user-generated content, right? For them to talk about their experiences with you and sharing of those things, or creating some interactive things online that they could engage with, something that makes it more tangible and something that they are using offline, even when they're not with you directly or interacting with you directly. All right, this is just kind of a nod to like why pop culture references are, what can we learn from them, or how can we draw strategies from them, whether it's Taylor Swift or somebody else. If you just can't stand the thought of Taylor Swift, that's fine. But there's some pop culture reference that we all resonate with in one capacity or another. So why are they effective when it comes to learning leadership strategies or marketing, all those types of things? Well, really because they're a mirror back to us about what society, values, or kind of where society is at and where different struggles are, or where there's different emphasis, or what it is that we're striving towards. So looking at those things is somewhat of a mirror and figuring out, okay, why are so many people connecting with this thing or this artist or this movie or this book or whatever is happening out in the world, and how can I get to the root of that to use it to inform what I do? So authenticity and the power of relatability. Now, at first glance, you may be thinking, relatability? I don't relate to a billionaire pop star. Fair enough, right? But through her authenticity and through her being very vulnerable, and typically people that enjoy Taylor Swift the most are those that read into her lyrics. And the lyrics are oftentimes the things that connect with people the most and really resonate. You find at some point in your life a Taylor Swift song that embodies where you are at any given time. And I put this lyric up from the song Mirror Ball because she talks about, all she does is try, try, try. And we sit there and we think she looks perfect and effortless in all these things she's doing. But she is trying very hard. Like, she's never come off as this person that it just comes easily and naturally. No, it's through hard work and effort. So that helps us to see, okay, if it feels challenging to me, if I feel like I'm having to work at this harder than maybe some other people, that's not an indication that I'm doing anything wrong. In fact, I may be doing everything right by putting all of the effort towards those things. And by being open and by being vulnerable or giving people something to emotionally resonate with, again, that allows for another form of connection between you and your clients or your consumers, whomever those end users may be. So leading with sparkle. So talking about this need for lightness, for play, and kindness. I think that's something that we are lacking a lot of in the world today. And so if you can find that in areas in a way that resonates with you, I encourage you to engage with that, right? So, it's just that's something that it's not a hard stretch to produce art or to produce something currently that makes people feel sad or down, right? Not I can open my phone on any given day and find something in the news that makes me feel sad. But if you can produce art or you can produce something that elicits joy in people and gets them engaged in that way, that's truly unique at this point in time. And so anything that you can think of that can help combat cynicism and can help us from reaching burnout. Because again, when things we only have so much negativity that we can continuously intake. So if we can find ways to engage with joy and lightness and fun, I mean, even us as grown adults, we need that too. We think we have to leave it behind in childhood, and that's not the case. So I would encourage you to find pathways to that. And this is just, the photos here are of Taylor going to visit children in children's hospitals. She doesn't take a PR team when she goes. These are photos that are shared by the family members because it means so much and is so impactful when she goes and does these things. Okay, I wanted to touch base real quick on the engagement heard around the world. All right, so on August 26th, Travis Kelce proposed to Taylor, and everybody knew about it. And so I've got an image up here. I mean, news reporters were finding out about it live on TV, and you could just see their elation and excitement and kind of, not even knowing what to do at the moment. People, Swifties were the Paul Revere of their friends and family group texts, seeing if they had heard the news yet. And so thinking about, okay, why is this? 99.9% of us are never going to meet this couple, never going to know them personally. So why was this such a phenomenon? Why was this happening? I have a question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, because I think Taylor has done a really good job herself of displaying what we call vicarious joy. And that's genuine happiness or, for somebody else experiencing happiness and success. And she has put that out into the world for a really long time. And has been genuinely happy for friends, for family, for her fans. She has written personal letters to fans when they have done their own personal achievements. She has sent flowers to fans when they've been in the hospital or they've been in accidents. Different things have happened there. She's always the one that if an artist is receiving an award, if nobody else is engaging, she'll stand up and clap or dance. Like, she has always been the one to be happy for others. And so it kind of goes back to that saying, what you put out in the world will eventually come back. And so we saw that with the engagement announcement, and we're seeing that in a lot of other ways with her success as well, is this genuine happiness for another person, even though you don't have anything to gain. So it's very much an empathetic, selfless type of response, and things, again, that I think we could use more of in the world. Now, you could say this is strategic, but also I think, brands wanted to get on with this too, right? So with the engagement as well as with the album release, you saw brands picking up the torch and celebrating everything that Taylor has going on in her life, both personally as well as professionally. I think my favorite one is the Empire State Building. The Empire State Building loves Taylor Swift. They have a whole social media account, and anytime she's got something going on, they are right on it. So lots of fun that's to be had, right? Again, that lightness, that sharing in those things. So those are things that I encourage you as you are thinking about your marketing, is how can you display vicarious joy for others in whatever capacity is most appropriate, right? So is it celebrating, with your consumers, or having them show unboxing videos, or making posts about milestones that they're having and getting to know what they've got going on so that you can celebrate them personally and publicly. You could highlight, again, fans or customer stories, different things going on to celebrate who they are and what they're doing. And and whether or not that results in an end sale. Thinking about that again to really try to tap into what is bringing people joy right now and how can we add to that. And then it's, kind of like that old, the baseball movie. If they build it, if you build it, they will come. So if you put that joy out there, if you put those things out there, expecting that at some point there will be a return on investment in one way or another. So you can look to nostalgia, just looking to different things to engage with people in a deeper level. And also the idea that emotions are contagious. So, again, kind of pointing back to the idea that it's really easy. The most engagement right now we see is from rage baiting. We get online or you get on social media and you'll see an article or and something, and you look in the comments, you're like, oh boy, this is not pretty. But again, we can emphasize that in a positive way as well. If we can find ways to make joy, to make lightness, to make fun more contagious, that is something that we can do. It also helps to build that sense of community and belonging. So one of the reasons you're seeing so much success with Taylor is because of the community, is because of the fandom, because they want to support her in the work that she's doing. And so it is an identifier. It is a way to feel that sense of belonging, and people come together and they have listening parties and they do all these different fun things because it is a sense of belonging that's built around that. So thinking about ways that you could foster belonging within your organization as well as within the folks that you are serving. Humanizing the brand, so helping see there's people behind the face of your company, and knowing what that is, and having those positive associations with who you are and what you do. Okay, so final takeaways here. I would say, first of all, again, lead with story. So telling the story of who you are, what you're about, what your values are, so that people can connect with you on a deeper level and watch you and your brand evolve over time. Leading with sparkle, so taking on that vicarious joy, figuring out how you can tap into that vicarious joy, and watch that become contagious, okay? And then leading with strategy, so staying intentional, being adapting, and willing to you and your brand grow and evolve over time, right? We shouldn't stay stagnant. That was the thing too about the eras, is we've seen her in multiple different genres. We've seen her lean into multiple different influences when it comes to her music. And so thinking about that, again, from your perspective of your branding and your marketing there. Oop, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so just some selfish plugs, I guess, at the end here. So again, I did co-write a book, Swift Leadership, a tailor-made approach to influence and decision-making. I actually teach an honors course at WKU that's interdisciplinary in nature, where students come up with their own creative leadership project, and then they're able to showcase that to the rest of the university at the end of the semester. And so I've got a QR code there if that's something that you're interested in. I also, back in May, shortly after the book was released, went on a podcast and did an interview with their Swifts, Lauren and Meredith Redding. So they interview folks who Taylor Swift has impacted them in some significant way. Those things vary in terms of what the direction is or how they were impacted, but this is a QR code that goes straight to the episode where I got to chat with them, and so that was a lot of fun. So thank you all so much, and happy to take any questions. Yes?
What's your perspective on Taylor Nation? Because when you posted that TikTok yesterday asking for input from the Swifties,
Mm-hmm.
that was what kept coming to my mind. Especially, I can't remember exactly which tour it was. Riley will know. When she did for Taylor Nation the surprise house shows, and she invited a bunch of people out to her house and just like treated it like she was just having friends over and things like that. And I just think
The secret sessions? Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I think just like crossing that into our world when we're dealing with so much AI and so much just connection. What's your perspective
I think kind of leaning back to some of the stuff I talked about in terms of putting out who you are and what it is that you all care about. I think showing in whatever degrees or capacities you have that the work that you are doing is done by humans, right? I think that gets also back to authenticity. And I think in the age of AI, authenticity is going to become more and more valued because anymore when we're getting online or having interactions or looking at things, we can't trust things the way that we used to. I had somebody debating with me on a lukewarm take, wasn't super hot in the comments. And then I go to, go back and forth, and I didn't get that frustrated with it because it's engagement, right? But then I look, and they don't have any posts themselves. Their name is like T and a bunch of numbers and stuff, and they've only got some reposts and not for a very long history. And so it starts getting me wondering, okay, did I just spend time arguing with a robot, or was there a person on the other end there? So the more that you can be transparent about who you are and what you do, and that you are authentically human, I think that is going to be one of the big things that we're going to continue to lean into. Different industries are going to be impacted in different ways, obviously, so we're all going to have to adapt accordingly. I mean, education is no stranger to this as well. We've got our own unique challenges that we're working through, but I think that is going to become more and more valuable because people are going to see a lot of the AI-generated stuff for what it is, which is recycled content. It's not generating anything new. Generating is a generous term. So I think the more that we can be transparent showing those things, hopefully that can drive more connection. Yeah. Other questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. And so that was the interviews that she's done around this album. She has stated, what's unique about when you're recording an album and you're going through the whole process and you do the rollouts, like you can be in two different phases from where you were when you recorded that album to when it is released. And so she said, like Torture Poets Department, for example, which is a much different tone if you're familiar anything at all with the music. Great album, but drastic, like two different things, right? So apples and oranges, essentially. So she said, but with this album, and she recorded this while she was on the Eras tour, so she was flying to Sweden and doing, working with the producers and recording this as she's popping around the globe doing this tour. And she said, it is representative of where I am now. And so I think that is a unique experience for her to actually be able to put out work that is still where she is in the current moment. You're definitely seeing some of the fandom struggle with that idea. But again, I think that also gets back to that idea of a need for vicarious joy. So just if a fan is not currently in that place themselves, being able to be happy for the artist that has brought them so much reward or has brought them so much comfort or console in the heartbreak times, and recognizing that they're in a different place now, and we have to let artists evolve as they're moving through different phases. So that's what I've seen. There's also been some discussions about folks that jumped into the fandom during the folklore, evermore type of genre when that kind of started. That this is more reminiscent of like her 1989 album. So like if you've been around for a while, this kind of approach or this kind of lightness and thing is not new. It's just another aspect of her that we haven't seen as much in recent years. And then there's some other just kind of silly stuff going online that, again, I think may be bot driven. But that's for another topic. All right. Anything else? Yeah. Oh, gosh. You know, Life of a Showgirl, I'm going to say it is my favorite album, because for me it's a no skip album. Yeah, I can just let it listen. I can just, it's short and sweet. It's 12 songs. They're fun. They're great. I can listen to it over and over. It stays stuck in my head. Favorite song, All Too Well 10-minute version. So, right. I mean, you can't get any better than that song, and that's even, I think she stated in her podcast interview, that's her favorite song. So, I mean, it's a masterpiece. So, any other questions? Yeah. There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I've catered it towards marketing, but I've also leaned into some of the same themes that I talk about when it comes to leadership. That authenticity piece, I think, is one of the biggest things. I also talk about in the book servant leadership. So she is very well known. She's had the same dance team. She's had the same people working for her for a long time. I do know, and this is just one example, and I think there were many other bonuses and rewards along the way, but the truck drivers, so the people that drive her equipment during the Eras Tour, she gave $100,000 bonuses, just to them. And I'm sure there's a number of other things as well that we are not privy to. I think it came out this week that one of her good friends, frustrated with some of the conversations going online about saying she's not authentically a good person or whatever the case may be, said, look, she used to scroll through the GoFundMe website like somebody else would social media and just fulfill, right? Because she had those things available. And so somebody that is very true to themselves, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, because she has received positive press and success, but she's also received a lot of negative press too. But I think as a leader, standing strong in who it is that you are and what you believe in, and having a willingness to serve others, not a this high horseness type of perspective. I think those are some real genuine things that we can take from her. And those are things that we oftentimes talk about within the leadership course. And so the course that we do, again, it's interdisciplinary. Students are from, I think I had one business student last time. Everybody else was from all different areas. And so we would talk about, okay, how can you lean into that creative outlet and that being a leader in your area and in your discipline. And the students came up with some great things. So I had a pre-vet student who created a whole campaign for humane societies and like how it was Taylor Swift themed and how they could do how they could incorporate that in order to get engagement and to get funds raised for the Humane Society. I had a young man who knew nothing about Taylor Swift, but he needed the credit hours, and there he was. And so he became an honorary Swiftie by the end, but his name was Bryce, and he was a chemistry student. So chemistry is a little bit of a stretch, right, in terms of trying to connect that back to the theme. And so his project was looking at stage effects and how you could do large-scale experiments to test out and consider how do stage effects impact a show and how do they make those different, what does that draw in when you have those different things happening there. And then another one of my favorites was I had a student that was an environmental science major. And so what they did, they created a scavenger hunt that was Taylor Swift themed, and they set up at Lost River Cave out near the trails there, and they would hand out a QR code in the scavenger hunt list. But what people were doing during the scavenger hunt is they were using an app that would take pictures of native as well as invasive species of plants. And so that was able to inform the parks and to be able to help them know what was out there. And you had kind of this consumer-driven, or not even consumer, participant-driven data that was collected through this kind of creative and innovative way. So helping people, again, kind of step into what it is that they're good at and really leaning into that and not being afraid of what others are going to think about that. Yeah, thank you. All right, I don't know where we are on time. It's 3:07. Okay. Yeah. Sure. So actually, I was approached by my co-author. My co-author, Michael Urich, him and I were in the PhD program together at the University of Cincinnati. And so he is the editor at our publisher group, and they have a whole series of pop culture and leadership type of books. So they've done they've done Star Wars, they've done Lord of the Rings, they've done Pirates of the Caribbean, they've done Harry Potter, Handmaid's Tale, they've done a number of different fiction ones. But he had the idea, I think it was early in the Eras Tour, I think because it was fall of 23 when we had this conversation. And he had the idea that he thought, well, Taylor Swift would be a great person to write about and kind of draw these same lessons. But he didn't know anything about Taylor Swift other than, the big things that kind of the whole public knew. And so he approached me about it, and I was more than happy, very excited about the project. And so essentially what we did was we took traditional management, leadership type of theories that you would normally get in like a dry academic textbook, and tried to bring them to life through the lens of Taylor Swift so that we could teach the things that we normally teach, but again, through that lens of something that students already cared about and were engaged with. And so that just so in my honors course, what I have the students do is we would go through a reading assignment a week, and the students would drive the conversations. They would come in with the prompts. I really didn't lecture any at all in that course, and that's really the design of it. But they would come in and they would have applications of these theories, and they would talk about how it played out in their life, or they would give different examples. And being able to see those things through that lens allowed them to connect with and identify with those lessons much more. And so I've done some teaching articles and things talking about how, whether it's Taylor Swift or, again, somebody else, whatever pop culture reference resonates with you, I strongly encourage, if you use something like that, use something that you actually care about, not just like, oh, who's popular and let me pick from them, because you're not going to get the same connection with students in my case, or whomever it is that you're trying to connect with, unless you genuinely care about that too. Because, I had a student from last semester that when the engagement happened, she emailed me. She's like, Dr. Yates, can I come by your office? I just want to talk. And so she came by my office later that week, and we chatted, of course, about that. But then I got to hear about her internship she had over the summer. And I got to hear about her job prospects as she was getting ready to graduate soon. So a lot of times, whether it's Taylor Swift or whether it's a movie or whether it's a book or whatever it is, I think these pop culture references allow us another form of connection with people that we don't always think about or consider. And so if we can foster more opportunities to connect over those things, I think it allows us, again, to foster those relationships a bit more. Yeah. All right. Anything else, or I don't know what time I go to. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.